A word for morning prayer for thy kingdom come on Pentecost Sunday. Spirit. The New Testament reading for morning prayer today is from Acts chapter 10. The New Testament in modern English calls Acts the young church in action. The Spirit came upon the disciples on Pentecost, and they were filled with the Spirit and spoke in tongues they'd never learned. I'd been using Duolingo to improve my Welsh before we moved. I've been to classes, practiced in shops and with friends, read books on grammar, learned prayers, hymns and songs, and it's hard work. But the Spirit gave the disciples a gift in speaking up the wonders of God in languages they didn't learn from books or classes. And I remember when this first happened to me. And I remember a friend of mine who went to a prayer meeting before a Bible conference in London and heard people speaking in these strange languages. He said, "I don't know what it is, but I want it." And Damien started to feel a fire burning inside and started to speak, and there was a new language. A man I met in Stockport came to the church. He was actually coming to the street to buy cocaine, but bumped into us with a roll of cash in his pocket. Well, he came back to the evening service, and the sermon was about being filled with the Spirit. Nathan called me on Monday morning and told me he'd woken up in the middle of the night and a wind was blowing inside. It seemed to blow right into his mouth, and he said he started to speak gobbledygook. He asked me what it was, and I told him he'd been filled with the Holy Spirit and it was a new prayer language. The next thing he said was that he didn't crave the cocaine anymore, and the last time I spoke to him, he was training as a missionary. In Acts chapter 10, Peter met a Roman centurion, Cornelius, who'd had a vision telling him to ask for him, right after Peter himself had had a vision. Peter shared with Cornelius the good news of the kingdom. The Spirit came on all who heard, and the first non-Jews were born again, and at the same time filled with the Spirit, speaking in new tongues. These new Gentile followers were then baptized, and Peter stayed for a few days, probably to start teaching them more about Jesus and the kingdom. And we're all here today, not Jewish, but grafted in as New Testament followers of Jesus, and the promise of the Spirit is for all. The Lord is here. His Spirit is with us, and we can welcome him to fill us with the gifts of the Spirit to build our faith and the kingdom. So a word for morning prayer today on Pentecost Sunday is Spirit.